So today we'll be discussing about women empowerment. I was really excited to have a discussion with you. And I was wondering that how do we start talking about women empowerment? So what I did was, before coming here, I had a word with a few of my male friends, and I asked them that, can you tell me what you mean by women empowerment? And what do you understand with this term? So they all had one thing in common, and they all said that, what empowerment you're talking about. And they said women are already empowered. I said, all right, then I'll have to do my own research and I'll get back to them once
Yeah.
is over. Yeah. Before I go ahead, Harriet, what I believe is that, women are already, yes, of course, they are empowered. But then, all these years, there have been layers of dirt and dust on empowerment, and somewhere it is being lost. And we need to clear that dirt and dust and to make people aware that what exactly women empowerment stands for, or what exactly women empowerment is. Because for example, for me, women empowerment is being
Yeah.
able to take day-to-day decisions in my life wherein nobody else influences me, or I'm not bound to take decisions because somebody is forcing those on me. So I would like to know from your side, Harriet, what do you think of women empowerment? What is your take on this?
I think it's very interesting what you say about speaking to your male friends and them saying that women are already empowered, and they are right. I think women are empowered. I think the only thing is that women don't realize that they already have that power, and just having the confidence to be able to use it. So for me, being empowered is being able to be confident enough to be able to make decisions for myself, that affect myself and affect my day-to-day living. Most of the women don't have that opportunity, or they don't have that chance because of different layers, as as you've said, because there's the political layers, there's the economic climate, there's so many different things, and there's oppression in the whole mix as well. So I think when we speak about women empowerment, we're addressing those things that really oppress women and take away their voice. So for me, being an empowered woman is being able to make the decisions and being able to voice what I want to voice without being afraid of what other people might think, because men are able to do that. And I think women should be able to do that without having any backlash from society. So that's for me, that's women empowerment.
Yeah, right. I went through the Indian medieval ancient times. I just wanted to study a lot more about, the position of women in India. And you'll be surprised to know that there are still some temples in Karnataka and Maharashtra wherein you get to see the carvings done, wherein some of the goddesses and even ancient time women, they are seen reading and writing in those times. So it means women were already empowered. And there is some mentioning about writing love letters at the time of Lord Krishna. So I mean, if somebody is writing a love letter, some lady has to read it as well. So it means women were empowered. Women were given a place, a
Yes.
par with men, because there were women warriors as well. But then, today there is less of awareness amongst women ourselves. I mean, if I'm an empowered woman, it's my utmost responsibility to make sure that I empower other women around me. But what we generally see is women pull down other women, and which is so sad. I mean, if I'm being obliged, or if I'm lucky enough to be empowered, it's my duty to empower other people around. Forget about empowering a woman, but empowering other human being, for God's sake. And only then we can have a better place, for each other. So that's what I feel. Because of course, if you go back to Indian mythology, you'll get mentions about swamvars. Now, what those swamvars were? Those swamvars were wherein a lady was, having power to choose the man for her life. Nobody force her to go about, making her career choices, or marry a person. But now with time, things have changed. every time we women are being judged. I mean, I feel it personally, in not only in India but across globe. You would say that we are judged on what we are wearing on. We are judged on the way we talk, the way we dress. Forget about our dresses, but we are also judged on our smiles. So that's what I've experienced personally as well. Of course, it's very, very important for a woman to empower another woman. Of course, especially when we are educated, especially when we are lucky, and especially when we are empowered. What do you say about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things I started doing a lot of research with regards to Indian culture
Okay,
because my great grandfather was actually Indian. So um, I
okay,
started reading a lot and looking at how the ancient civilization was. And it's not that ancient because they did write and they did
yes,
read. So it's not that ancient,
yes,
right? Um, and to me, I find it very fascinating that it's one of those cultures that there's a lot of oppression with women, but then there's a lot of goddesses with who are revered. So I that to me does not really make sense. I always find that a bit confusing, to be honest with you, because there should be a lot more respect and protection towards women when you have that within your culture. But there seems to be something happened and people moved away from that, and there was a lot more oppression. So when we look at African culture, because my other side is obviously I was born in Nairobi in Kenya, and when
okay,
you look at African culture, African um, a lot of women were very, very empowered. We had women who led armies in war. We had women who were the queens of uh, many, many places. So when you look at all our histories, there's a lot of positions that women used to have, and it's very interesting because women in those days were the ones that looked after the economy. So they were the ones who went to the marketplace, they're the ones who were trading, right? And the men were looking after every other affair. They were, protection, looking after the different communities, but it's the women who were at the marketplace. So when you start looking at all of these things, you began to think, you began to question where all this was lost in translation, because we had that, in the most in countries where women are mostly oppressed, we had that. We had poets, we had women poets, we had female leaders, and even in the
yes,
West, you had female poets who wrote, but they had to hide their true identity because it's not because that they were not educated. Women have always been educated. Women have always been empowered. It's just the way society has um, been over the years transformed and positioned the woman as subservient. So I think when we talk about women empowerment, it's good to look at look at history, look at what happened, look at why did this happen? Where did society go wrong? So that as we are empowering women, we make sure that it doesn't happen again, right? And when we're talking about women empowerment, it's also good to make this clear that we're not talking about doing away with men. We appreciate
true,
men, we love men very much. What we're saying is that there has to be a balance. There has to be a balance because women see things differently. Women bring in decisions, the thought process is totally different. So we have to be able to have a balance when we're talking about that. um, so to go back into what we were saying about education and all of those things, I really believe that we can empower women amongst ourselves. Those of us who have more information can always share this information, because a lot of us do a lot more research than some women, and depending on where women are, it just might need empowerment can be just being there for someone and encouraging someone. That can also be empowerment. So I think there's very many different ways that we can be able to do that. And I think I always say that before you go outside to try and empower people outside, you have to start with your vicinity. The house that you live in, are women empowered? Your neighbors, are they empowered? Your community? Because we cannot say that we're talking about women empowerment and we want to have equality and all of these things, and we're not thinking about the woman who's disempowered in the small villages, the woman who has no choice. We have to ensure that we make opportunities for those women and we empower them so that we can see a bigger difference. So I think when we talk about women empowerment, I totally agree with you. We have to start with where we are. instead
Very,
of going outside first. Start with where we are.
yeah, very true. As you spoke about, some of the women hiding their identity, I, I would like to tell you one of the, a recent found out about a woman from Egypt. Her name is Sisa. And for 43 years, just imagine, for long 43 years, she had to hid her identity, and she lived as a man for long 43 years. The reason was being that she lost her husband, and she had to, look after her daughter. And for that, she had to go out and do some jobs, do some, various jobs. And in our country, women are not supposed to go out and work and do some jobs which she wanted to.
Wow.
For long 43 years, what she did, she shaved her hair totally. She threw away all her clothes, and she started wearing her husband's clothes, and she named herself a man's name. And then for 43 years, she didn't have actually another identity, because being a woman, she was living a man's life. And she is recently being found by some people, and now she is all they were
Oh,
all
wow.
places. And she has come out as a very strong mother, as a very strong woman, who defines woman empowerment. And had she thought of not, shaving her head and coming out as a man, she wouldn't have been able to get any job, because that is what her country believed in. And now things have changed. All
Mm.
these 3 years, things have changed, and she herself represents women empowerment. So just see that it's not about my country or your country. It's something to be spoken about, to be brought out in notice, that women need to be empowered. Of course they are powerful, of course we are powerful, of course we wear those invisible capes, of super women. And I keep telling my kids that I'm that super mom, because I can do so many things at one time. We are multitaskers. We do have those invisible capes, but then we need to make other people aware about women empowerment. We need men to know that women need to have their own decision making skills, and how wonderfully they can do various works. Now, being in education field, I have seen myself, and I'm sure you must have seen that as well, that from primary grades itself, whenever we talk about firefighter, the image will be of a man. Whenever we talk about a gardener, the image will be of a man. Why can't a woman be a gardener? Why can't a woman be a firefighter? Of course we all are, and we all can be.
Yeah.
But then we need to start from a primary scale, from schools itself. And that is what I believe in, empowering people, making them aware right from a primary stage, primary age, because somewhere we get programmed in our minds. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think education is very important. With my case, my mother grew up in a time
Okay.
where women were not educated. So you only got education to a certain point, and then you would have to go and start working. So she got to that level of education, and her father took her to get an audition in a school to be a teacher. And the principal at that time said to my grandfather that, okay, your daughter is very, very good, she can be a teacher, but I don't think it is wise for her to stop following her education. It's good for you to allow her to pursue her education, because she's very, very intelligent. And my grandfather went back. My grandfather had 16 children, by the way. And my mom is one of the few who actually went to higher education. So my grandfather went back and allowed my mother to go and finish her education, which was a rare case in that time. So education is so important, because education gave my mother that opportunity to be able to work. My mom was able to finish her education. She was able to go to the city, and she was able to work in a bank. My mother grew up seeing her father being very entrepreneurial, very, being in business. And my grandfather was very rare as well, because of the time my grandfather spent a lot of time empowering my mom. And
Okay.
it's a very interesting story, because They spent so much time together. They were very close. He made sure he empowered my mom, showed her to do business. So my mom learned from my grandfather, not even from my grandmother, right?
Okay.
And I learned from my mother because I observed her when I was growing up. She was very empowered because she didn't know any different. She grew up with a father who encouraged her to do things, who encouraged her to pursue education. So it's very important to have education. And as you're saying, I really believe that girls should be allowed to try whatever they want to try. If your daughter wants to play sport, allow her to play sport. If she's very geeky and is interested in electronics, allow her to do that, because when children are born, they already have the innate talent or skills that they want to pursue. It's not by chance that the child is interested in electronics. It's not by chance. One
Right.
might be interested in dolls, the other one is interested in trucks or cars. So it's our responsibility to see that and to nurture that, and to help them through with education. Gone are the days when we used to say to children, well, you have to be this, or you have to do that, or you have to be this. There's so many possibilities. And I think you're in a very unique position as a teacher to be able to encourage the students in that aspect. And I think teachers, we when we're talking about empowerment, we cannot do that without teachers. They're very key in all of this. They're the first point of contact. They're the place of encouragement. I mean, I remember my teachers. I would go home and would say, "This is what my teacher said." The teacher becomes kind of like a second parent, because the student values what the teacher thinks and about themselves, especially. So if the teacher believes that they can do it, the student will be able to do it. So I think education is very key. We cannot discount it. Education does not have to be in a formal way. There's different ways of passing education. There's vocational training. But education is very, very important. And I think every child, every girl child, should have that chance to have an education. And I see there's many different countries trying to do that at the moment, ensuring that the girl child goes to school. And I think it's very important. But education is very key. So as someone who has benefited from a mother who had that, which was a very rare opportunity, I would say that it is fundamental for the success of, when we're talking about women empowerment, it's fundamental for the success of this empowerment that we're going for.
Yeah, you are right. As you spoke about your family background and how your mom or your grandmother got into education and exposed to education. Here again, I would also like to tell you about my grandmother's life. She got married at a very young age, and she wasn't educated at that time. But my great grandfather, he understood the importance of education in those times. And what he did, he started sending my grandmom to school, and she did her schooling after she got married. And once she got her schooling done, she went for her graduation, then her degree, and then she got into teaching herself, and later she became the headmistress of a school. And that is how education got into females of our family. They got exposed to education. And if one woman of the family is educated, the whole family becomes educated. And after my grandmother, of course, when my mom got married, it was her choice not to go out and work because she wanted to take care of her family. So again, it comes back to making your own choices. You need to be able to make your own choice, regardless of what society tells you to do. Because I may be working, because that is my choice. I may not be working because that again has to be my choice, because in the end it's my life, and there are so many lives attached to a woman's life. So if in the end we give choice, or we give power to a woman to take her own decisions, she becomes happy. And if she is happy, happiness works as contagious. If I'm happy, the whole family will be happy. If I'm unhappy for some other reason, or because I'm being imposed to do something which I don't want to, then of course that unhappiness is transferred from one generation to another generation. So of course, I mean, in any family, women need to be educated. But the sad part is, in remote villages, in remote places, still women are facing a lot of problems, a lot of issues, even in cities. As you spoke about taking care of our own neighbors, our own society, our own community, we don't know how much these people are suffering, especially during this COVID time, lockdown time. You must have heard about, so much of violence which has taken place against women at home. I mean, they have been exposed to certain degree of violence at home, domestic violence, which we call. So of course, women need to be empowered, and we need
Yeah.
to take care that what is going on next to our house, how our neighborhood is, how women are being exposed to, whether they are being exposed to domestic violence. I do have my supporting staff which comes home. I do have my supporting staff, female supporting staff in school itself. So of course, as a woman, it's my responsibility to make sure that the background they are coming from, are they facing any problem, are they facing any issues, are they aware of their rights and duties, are they happy back home, or they are facing some struggle, there are some problems, can we bring it up on table and can we do something. So it's like helping each other, and making this world a happier place. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely like to go back to what you were saying about when the woman decides to look after the children. And this is so important because when we're talking about women empowerment, we're not trying to shape how women think or feel. What we're saying is we want them to be in a position where they can make their own decisions without
Yes.
being judged, because not everyone wants to go and do a 9 to 5. Not everyone wants to run a business. Some women actually just love to be able to look after children, and that is actually it's a huge job. It's a very, very important task, because this is the future, right? The children are the future, and we cannot discount the we cannot discount the importance and how much work it takes for the mom to spend time with the children. And that is an untapped area when we're talking about economics. When we're talking about families, it's a very untapped area, because it's if you were to have children and you go and look for a nanny, how much would the nanny charge
Yes.
for the day, or even for the week, or for the month? Now when the mother does that, and does that for how many children, because the nanny is expensive. So we're looking at, if you're thinking of a nanny can be up to 800 pounds a week, right, depending on how many children you have and what they're doing. So when the mother stays at home and does that, that is so expensive, right? And we do not think about that. We just think, well, she's just staying at home. But that is expensive. So we need to remind people that when a woman stays at home to look after the kids, it's not cheap at all. It is expensive, right? And also, as we go on to talk about with COVID and what's happened, I mean, we were making great strides globally with women empowerment, but COVID has taken us back. We were making strides, 22 years of making strides economically, especially, but with COVID, all of that hard work is, we're back, further back than we were before. So there's a lot more work to be done at the moment. And I really think that when we're talking about women empowerment, it's very important to educate society. Now, there's so many things that shape society. There's so many things that shape communities. We were talking earlier about being judged by how we are, how you smile, how you dress, and everything else. And where are all those perceptions coming from? If we start thinking about it, they're coming from the media, they're coming from magazines, they're coming from and all of these magazines and and the media outlets, they actually make money from women's lack of self-esteem. So we need to start making sure that there's accountability for these outlets. You cannot just print something. You cannot just say that a woman who is slim is more desirable. There has to be accountability. And I think women need to remember that we have the power to decide. No man has the power to decide whether you're desirable or not. You have the power to decide, because every single person likes different things. Not all of us like pineapple, for instance. Some people love apples. Every single person has got different preferences, and I think it's it's time that as women we started taking our power back in these places, and showcasing different perceptions, and just really sharing our vision, sharing our story, and allowing other women to be. Because the sad thing is, sometimes it's the women who really disempower other women. Sometimes it's the women who do that, and it's based on the things that they believe that is desirable, or the way things should be. So if a woman prefers to stay at home, some other woman who is working very hard might think, well, why would you decide to be at home? I think it's being able to understand that every woman is different, and just because you like doing something does not mean someone else likes doing it. So when we're talking about women empowerment, and I keep saying this because people usually think that when we're talking about empowerment, we want to make every woman go and do STEM. No, we don't. We don't
No.
want every woman to be an engineer. We don't want every woman to be a doctor. We don't want that. All we want is for any woman to be okay to make the decision that she wants to make without being judged in society. That is women empowerment. And I think it's so important to be able to keep repeating that message, because not every woman wants to work 9 to 5, and not every woman wants to own their own business. It is stressful. So it's being able to allow every woman to just be. And I think for me, that is definitely women empowerment. So yes, that's really what I think. And when we talk about domestic violence, such things are very, very dear to me because of what I do with the organization that I run. So I really think to be able to combat things like domestic violence, first of all, we need to remind women of their value, and we need to really educate society on effects of domestic violence, because it's not just physical scars, it's emotional scars. And if those people have children, it goes into their children, it affects the children, it affects society in so many different ways. So when we look at situations that happen in the home, it really happens in the society. It's not just the home, it's the whole environment, you know. And I think it's good to look at those conversations in a holistic way, and being able to look after one another, as you said. It starts with our neighbor. It starts with our homes.
Yeah, very true. See, I'll agree with you totally. I do have a lot of male friends, and I've not seen one of them, being judgmental towards other women. It's always the women. And that is really troubling, and that is so depressing, because we being women need to empower each other. I mean, it's my responsibility to empower other women. It's also my responsibility to empower other human being, for God's sake. So we can't just keep pulling each other's legs. We have to be standing besides each other. We need to be really encouraging. We need to take care of each other when it comes to domestic violence,
Yeah.
when it takes our own decisions, when it comes to body shaming. I mean, how could somebody body shame another person? And it's not just about body shaming a woman, it's also about body shaming any other man or any other boy, for that matter.
Yeah.
It comes close to being a bully or being bullied. So when we talk about women empowerment, we are talking about making a better society amongst ourselves, because as you said that women have so many roles to play, and we are the ones who can bring a better place for other human beings. So yeah, we need to take care of that as well. I mean, we need to make other women aware, I mean, who are being judgmental at times, if they do. Because in the families itself it happens, mother-in-laws, daughter-in-laws, or sister-in-law, or co-sister, or the so of course we need to be by there, with each other, for each other, and to bring a balanced society wherein there is equality, wherein if I have a right to take my decision, I also know about my responsibility
Yes.
towards taking that decision. I just cannot go out there and
Yes.
make random decisions. Of course we need to be responsible as well. But then yes, women empowerment is something we need to talk about. Women empowerment is something we need to make people aware about, because I may look like a very lucky person or obliged one. You may look like an obliged one, but everyone is not as lucky as we are. And then it is our responsibility to make sure that the ones who are underprivileged, the ones who are not as privileged as we are there to take care of them, and we are there to make them aware, and we are there to bring them out of their box, and to show them the world which they have never seen. So that is what women empowerment for me is. And I'm really happy to have a like minded person in you who has the same thought process. And yeah, it's really a learning experience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really is. And um I think the beauty of it is being from different cultures and being from different backgrounds and being able to agree that
Yes,
it looks different for everyone,
yes,
and agreeing that yes, as women we need to do we need to do better by our sisters and our mothers and our friends. um
yes,
and I think it's very interesting what how you said with your male friends. And honestly, I think men sometimes when we speak to them about these things, they'd be thinking, well, but that does not make any sense. you know Men
yeah,
do not think about, well, my stomach is too big, I'm not going to be able to find that woman, I can't talk to that woman because my stomach is too big. I mean, I have never had that. You would never find a man who is short saying, I cannot go and speak to that girl who's 6'2".
yeah,
And these things really surprise me because I always think, then why is it as women that they feel that way? And something else I think I really have to bring through is, I think women need to stop listening to advice with regards to certain things from their friends
yes,
because they're not qualified. I am sorry, they're not qualified. Um, Things to do with career choices, your friends are not qualified. You need to go and find someone who's more qualified to talk to you about career choices. You need to go and find someone who's more qualified to talk to you about relationships. Your
right,
girlfriends are not your advisors. I am sorry, they are your girlfriends, they are your peers. They're not people you get advice from,
yes,
because some of the things that women go through, it's just, it doesn't make sense because if all of you think the same way, it's not the place to get advice. It just really does not make sense. So I think when we think about these things, it's always good to remember that because it's your life, you need to make sure that you're getting the best advice to do with your life. You need to
yes,
make sure that you're the person that you're speaking to has experience, because sometimes we shoot ourselves in the foot. We look at people who have no wisdom to give us the wisdom, and it's never that, it shouldn't be that way. It's a no-brainer, and it shouldn't be that way. And even when we think about how men do things, um they they do not look for permission to do anything.
no, yes,
But women feel like they need permission to do something. If a man wants to do something to do with their life, they will go and do it. That is what empowerment is. But with women, you want to ask all your girlfriends and their mothers and their cousins. uh, the, some things, I mean, we need to be able to be confident that we know what is best for us. We need to be confident to know that we're making the right decisions for our lives. And we need to stop being in such a way that we seek approval. When we're talking about women empowerment, when we're talking about being able to do things, when we're talking about being able to be in places of position, I don't look at it as asking. I don't believe in asking for permission. When women are talking about gender pay gap, we're not asking permission. We are going to be doing it. We need to come away from, I'm asking permission to do this, because we're
right,
not doing that. We're not doing that. We're going for it, right? um
right,
we need to have women in places of decision making, because if people are talking about changing policies with regards to domestic violence, you need someone who understands how it feels to be a woman and to be on the receiving end, because we can't allow decisions to be made when we're not in those places. um in ancient times, what used to happen is when they had the advisors, you had mature women in those in the place and you had mature men in the place. Both sexes used to make decisions. Both sexes used to come to agreements because you need both voices, right? So as we think about women empowerment, it's also good to encourage women to really make sure they're at the decision table, because policies are very important. Policies determine how wealth is distributed. Policies determine education systems. Policies determine so many things in society, and we need to be in that place, in that table, to make the decisions so that we can be able to help those women on the ground doing the work, empowering women. So as much as we're saying, yes, let's empower women, let's also remember that we need to be in that place to make decisions. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to make progress. So as we empower the woman next to us, let's make sure that we have people in decision making who bring the media into accountability, for instance. So when things are being placed there regarding women in how they should be, there's someone who has to be accountable for making that decision, and you can't get away with stuff like that. I think it's also very important to be able to look at that aspect of women empowerment.
Very true. I totally agree. Accountability is very important, and whatever I do, there has to be some value to it. We need to add value to whatever we do. So, of course, I mean, accountability is very, very important. And another thing, what I believe is that, be a man or a woman who is in power, uh, we need to make sure, that women are given their due. I mean, much deserved due, which somewhere got lost in ages. So we need to make sure that we empower people across societies, we empower people around our neighborhood, we empower everyone around us, and we empower ourselves for that matter. As you said, that we don't need permission to do something. We are responsible people, so we need to know what is right, what is wrong. We need to know our responsibilities, we need to know our duties. We also need to know that where we stand as a society, and a woman needs to stand at par with a man to make this planet a better place. So that's what my take on women empowerment is. I guess, we covered most of the points, and people like you and people like me,
Yes, we did.
of course, I mean, we can make sure that we make people aware around us, especially in school, since I come from education background. So it's my utmost responsibility to make sure that people around me are aware, my teachers are aware, my parents are aware, they are all oriented. And then come the children, because they are tender hearts, they can be molded as we want them to. But before that, we need to orient ourselves. I mean, we just cannot have our programmed brains towards working for something which we don't believe in. So before we go and do something, we need to believe in it. So we need to believe that yes, this woman empowerment word exists. Because some of the people say, okay, well, what are you talking about? Women empowerment? Women are not empowered? Of course they are not. I mean, we are powerful from within, but there have been times wherein we have been subsided and not given our due. The time to make sure that women are their due. Yeah. Yes. So anything you would like to contribute and conclude?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And I really agree with regards to having this conversation. Yes, I would like to say I think it's very important to make sure that we have these conversations with men, because sometimes they might not be able to understand what is going on in society unless we have these conversations with them. I love having conversations with women, but I also love having these kind of conversations with men so that they can understand the disposition that some women are in, because the more men understand, and genuinely some of them have no idea, because it's not in their environment. So they, if they're not told about it, they will not know about it. So I think it's important to have these conversations with men. I think it's very important to have male allies, because if the more allies we have of the opposite sex, the more we can let the opposite sex know what is going on, and we can have their support in empowering women. Because one of the things that, with my life and with my career, the people who've been very, very instrumental have always been men. They've been the ones who've given me the opportunity. So we're not saying that men are not good. We're not saying that men disempower women. No, that's not what we're saying, because some men might feel like they're being attacked. It's not the case at all. In my case, I've had amazing, amazing men around me who've helped me in my career, who've helped me in my life, who've helped me in so many different ways, who've given me so much wisdom, who have mentored me. And I think it's important to be able to have that around us, to be able to have them as allies. So as I close, I would like to say it's important to let our brothers, our cousins, and our friends have an idea of what is actually going on, so that when they see that women are talking about empowerment, they don't think that we're trying to take over. It is not the case. What we are doing is we're just bringing the balance. We're starting that conversation so that those who are not empowered, those who do not know that they can use their voice without being attacked, can be able to do so, and they can get the support from the men, because some men are very amazing. They give the space, they give the room, they give the opportunity, and it's good to be able to really say that, so that people understand that in this conversation we're working with men, in this conversation we're collaborating with men,
Yes.
in this conversation we're partnering with men. So it's not something that it's just women are doing. We are including men in this conversation.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, so let us all be empowered. Let our male friends be empowered, and let our female friends be empowered, and let us live in an empowered world wherein we do something for ourselves and save ourselves. Yeah. Okay then.
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay, Harriet. Thank you. Thank you for an insight.
Thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care.
Okay.
You.
Angie, bye.